So we have Genesis chapter 2, verse 10, right? We want to talk about the Garden of Eden, right? And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pishon. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There's bdellium and onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. That same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia, or Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates, right? So, right here we have the Tigris upon the right and the Euphrates upon the left, right up there. So we know where them two is, right? And as you can see on this map, the Tigris start right there, so up on the right, and go. It's the one that's going through Nineveh and Nuzi and Ashur, which is Assyria. That's why it says, see Tigris right there, so that's why it says go to the east, because it go to the east. Otherwise the Euphrates, it start up in the east and it go towards the west, you see me, then it swing back down toward the east. But the Tigris always starts in the and go to the east, understand? So that's the Tigris and Euphrates, right? But let's talk about Havilah, right? Because we understand Ethiopia, Cush. But let's talk about Havilah. Hold on. So Cush was one of the sons of Ham, right? One of Noah's sons. So he's the son of one of Noah's sons, Ham. So Genesis chapter 10 verse 7. And the sons of Cush. Now Cush had sons. Seba and Havilah and Sabta and Raamah and Sabteka, and the sons of Raamah, Sheba and Dedan. So Havilah is one of Cush's sons, right? I will understand, say, hold on. Cush is Ethiopia, right? But remember, say, Syene, which is Lake Nasser in Egypt, is the borders of Cush in the Bible, right? So Cush start by this lake, the borders. So the Blue Nile, which come out of the Lake Tana in Ethiopia, that compass the wall of this land right there, so up there, so into the Lake Nasser, you see me? From the lake up from Khartoum to Lake Nasser, that is Ethiopia. That's Cush. Cush. That's the man, Cush, that's his land. You see me? And if you look upon some other maps, them, this is the ancient kingdom of Meroe right here, because between the Blue Nile, which is come from Lake Tana, and there's another one called the Atabara River, that is the ancient Cushite kingdom of Meroe city state, right? But we're talking about Cush's son, so his son must be near him, right? So Havilah, let's go back to it. Genesis chapter 10 verse 7. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah and Sabta and Raamah and Sabteka, and the sons of Raamah, Sheba and Dedan. So Havilah is one of his sons, right? So hold on. It's one of them, it's from a library, a college library, Wisconsin University, right? So let's start. The other sons of Cush. You see it? The other sons of Cush, who was a son of Ham, was a giant of great stature. And the most daring sons, hold on. Nimrod, the other son of Cush, was one of Ham's, was a son of Ham, was a giant of great stature, and the most daring of the sons of Noah. He fomented trouble with the Babylonians. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Libya probably it cut off, so you probably can't say Libya. We are here concerned with the issue of Cush, namely Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, Sabteka, and Nimrod. The chronicler seems confused in the names, which some instances are very similar. The sons Cush were the Cushite Ethiopians and the Arabians, right? The Seba, as already, were inhabitants of Meroe of the Upper Nile, situated in the peninsula formed by the Atabaras and the Nile. That the Blue Nile will come out of Lake Tana, and the Atabar, the Edda River, made it a talk about. That's the Atabaras. Yeah. The Havilah, we're talking about Havilah now, were the Macrobian Ethiopians who dwelt in what is now Abyssinia, right? There was also a Shemite Havilah in Arabia. Why is there a Shemite Havilah as well as the Havilah of Cush of Ethiopia? Watch it. Because Joktan too. Joktan had a Havilah son too. In Genesis chapter 10 verse 29. These are Joktan's sons, and Aphir and Havilah and Jabab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Right? So it's close. That's why I'm showing you where it says the Havilah were the Macrobian Ethiopians who dwelt in what is now Abyssinia. Right? It said that these Macrobian Ethiopians had so much gold. They had markets, carts, and justice, and prisons, and were skilled in the workings of metals, as well as in some fine arts. Macrobia was also noted for its gold, which was so plentiful that the Macrobians shackled the prisoners in gold chains. You see me, so much gold, because that's Havilah, right? So remember, Cush, the ancient kingdom of Meroe, start from Lake Tana all the way up to Lake Nasser. That is the borders of Sin, the borders of Ethiopia, right? Hold on. And it said Abyssinia, which is modern day Ethiopia, is where the Macropian Ethiopians live. And we have, remember, this is the Blue Nile and this is the White Nile, which encompasses the land of Ethiopia, Abyssinia, and Somalia, right? So let's go back to Genesis, right? Genesis 2:10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pishon, that is which compasseth the whole land of Havilah where there is gold. Remember, the Havilah were Macrobian Ethiopians who dwelt in what is now Abyssinia. Remember that? Hold on. Get my point. So, Abyssinia is Ethiopia, right? Have it right there, so. Had another sitting. So that's how we know that the Blue Nile, which come out of Lake Victoria, are the Havilah. Now the other Havilah is the Shemite Havilah, and that is right there. So Jeddah, Sa'ana in Yemen, which is right next to the regular Havilah, Ethiopia, Yemen. So that's why you have another Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah onto shore, which is against Egypt. He was talking about this Havilah from this side all the way up to shore, which is right there, so in between the Saudi Arabia and Egypt, below Israel. See me? Sure. But the Cushitic Havilah, which come out of Cush, which starts right there, so from Sinai up into Khartoum, Lake Tana. Cush Havilah which is one of his sons, remember, the sons of Cush, and the sons of Cush, Genesis chapter 10 and 7, Seba and Havilah, right? I was talking about the Havilah were the Macrobian Ethiopians who dwelt in what is now Abyssinia. One of the sons of Cush, Havilah, has to be the White Nile, which come out of Lake Victoria, which go down all the way to Tanzania, and it encompasses this whole land. It surrounds it. Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Yemen. It surrounds the whole thing, because Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and Africa is one land. Look, it's one land. It's one land. It's one land. Before the British people in the 1800s met the Sinai, canal, Suez Canal, it did one land. This is a sea. A sea is three sides covered. A sea. It's one land. This is a little 20 mile. You have wider bridges in America than this little 20 mile little space right there. So, okay, it's one land. So this is Havilah right there. So it's look pan a gold reserve map of this place. It's much gold right there. So much gold. And look pan in East Africa, you have energy companies called Havilah energy companies, because they know what go on, right? So watch it. Book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 24. Verse 25. He filleth all things with wisdom, as Pishon and Tigris, that's the two rivers, in the time of new fruits, right? That's when the rain season, around September, and that's when it rain, and he's saying it's full. He filled things with wisdom, just as them big two great rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris. He maketh understanding to abound as Euphrates and a great river, right? And as Jordan in the harvest. Oh, well on. In 25, me say Pishon is the White Nile, right? And it's the Tigris. That's what I'm talking about. He filleth all things his wisdom, as them rivers will flow like the White Nile will come out of Lake Victoria. You see Lake Victoria Falls, it's a massive falls. And the Tigris, which come out of one of them lakes up in Turkey. That's the time of new fruits. That's the rain season, and September starting, when it rain and hurricane. He maketh the understanding to abound like Euphrates, and as Jordan in the time of harvest. Because the great rivers Euphrates floods too, and the Jordan River floods, because the Jordan was the first river mentioned in Genesis 2. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from thence it was parted and become into four heads. So parted means it disappeared, because rivers go in the ground and come out at the ground, the fountains of the deep, okay? Rivers come out of the ground. Rivers are fresh waters that come out of the ground. Sea is salt water. River is fresh, okay? And they go into the ground and out of the ground. So that's what it means when it parted. It went into the ground and it came back up in a different part of the earth. Turkey and Ethiopia. You understand? So the river that come out of the garden was the Jordan. I'm going to prove this. Watch it. In time of harvest. That's why it says Euphrates and as Jordan in the time of harvest. He maketh the doctrine of knowledge appear as the light, and as Gihon in the time of vintage. Right? So this is the breakdown of the garden right here. So in Ecclesiasticus 24. It's talking about all of the rivers, the four rivers which were the heads that parted from the first river, right? Watch it. Verse 30. I also came out as a brook from a river, and as a conduit into a garden, and said, I will water my best garden, and will water abundantly my garden bed, and lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. So what? This is the Garden of Eden now, because eastward in Eden basically is the whole of Africa, right? But there's eastward, so you go east to the Nile, and between the Euphrates and the Tigris, two Niles, the white and blue, and between the Tigris and Euphrates, you get You get Ethiopia, Egypt, Israel, Syria, Iraq. You see me? So the Garden of Eden now is in that part. So where the garden is, he says, I also came out as a brook from a river, right? And as a conduit into a garden. So this is the Garden of Eden. This is not Eden. This is the Garden of Eden. This is the garden inside of Eden now. And said, I will water my best garden, the best garden. See? Eden. I will water abundantly my garden, because this Eden is God's garden. And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. So let's see what I go on with this brook, right? So that's why I pull up hold on. That's why I pull up a map of the Kidron, right? And the Kidron brook starts up in Jerusalem and goes into the Dead Sea, right? But hold on. Hold on, I want to get you hold on. To the Kidron spring, which go by Jerusalem, right? And with a garden there, Gethsemane, that's a garden by Jerusalem. You see me? And then you have the King's Garden. So this is the garden and the brook. Hold on. I came out as a brook from a river by the Jordan, right? And as a conduit into a garden. And I will water my best garden, because Jerusalem is the garden. It is the best garden. You understand? The spring of the Gihon. Because the Gihon, which starts in Africa, from Lake Tana, it go into the ground again. And like this spring out and feed up the Kidron. That's what it's talking about. And this Kidron goes... Hold on. This Kidron goes into the Dead Sea. Is it? You understand? That's why it says, I will water my best garden, and will water abundantly my garden bed. And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. That's the Dead Sea. That's the garden. And the Jordan is one of the rivers. That's the first river. And it goes into the sea as well. And it resurfaces into 4. You understand? That's why Abraham had this promise in Genesis 15 and 18. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Now the river of Egypt is the Nile. You see me? And look what town is situated at the base of the Nile, the delta, Goshen, right? Goshen. Now in Joshua 15 and 51, this is some of the cities of the tribe of Judah, right? The tribe of Judah where Jesus come from, Yahushua. And Goshen, and Holland, and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages. That is some of the cities of Judah. Goshen. Now look upon the map. Goshen is the Nile River. You understand? So that's where you see the promise right there. So in the same day the Lord made a covenant unto Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Right? So Euphrates now. You know what country touched the Euphrates? Syria. You know what Syria called in the Bible? Aram. Aram. Hold on. Hold on. This is 1 Chronicles chapter 2 verse 23. And he took Geshur and Aram with the towns of Jair from them, with Kenath and the towns thereof, even 70 cities. All these belong to the sons of Machir, the father of Gilead. That's a Manasseh man. From the tribe of Manasseh, Aram, that's Syria. And Syria Syria, Caesarea, Damascus. Syria touches the Euphrates. So the Israelites own from Goshen, the Nile, onto the Euphrates. The space between, that's the Garden of Eden. But in Eden, which is Africa, but eastward, in East Africa, is Eden, the garden, which is Israel. And the four rivers of the garden are the two Niles, the white and the blue. Hold on, don't know where I'm going. The White Nile and the Blue Nile, and the Tigris and the Euphrates. The White Nile starts, hold on, I don't know. Wagwan, man. Wagwan. Yeah. The White Nile. So watch it. I want to show you something. So the Greek name is the Nilus, right? Because Nile is a Greek word for when Ptolemy, in the time of the Maccabees, conquered this land. They changed the name. But one of the Latin names for the Nilus is Gihon, right? See, Nilus, Nile, Gihon, Gihon. Understand? This scenario 1 P25. Biblio W 1, 1926, page 146, semicolon, Spielberg, Mythos Vom, Synagogue. You see me? That's the bibliography where you find the source of this information. So the Nile, which is actually two rivers, one of them is actually documented as the Gihon. You see me? So the Nile, hold on, which come out of Lake Tana, is the Gihon because it come from Ethiopia, right? And then you have the White Nile will come out of Lake Victoria, which encompass the whole land of Abyssinia, which is modern day Ethiopia, is Havilah. And this is the Pishon, which encompass the whole land of Havilah. You see me? And then you have the Tigris and Euphrates up there, so. And the first river which parted, meaning disappeared, because it go back into the ground, was the Jordan. And a stream from the Jordan is the Kidron, which goes into the sea. And it come from Jerusalem. That is the garden. That is the rivers of Eden.